Wingman Joker, thank you for listening to this channel and please support the channel. Please subscribe. Chapter 111, Charmed. When Victor entered the dining room, the meal had already started. It seems the maid has delayed informing him and Lara on purpose. His father was leisurely sitting at the head of the table with George standing behind him. On the left side, his stepmothers were seated in order with their younger sons Luke and John, who were staring daggers at Victor. Lara, who was pouting, seemed to have found her place near his mother. Someone has probably scolded her for being late. His mother, Elena, looked at him entering the dining room with a smile. Her face was much more relaxed than the last time he saw her. On the other side of the table, the first seat was occupied by Falcon, who seemed to have chosen to be a guest at Theodore's house after meeting him yesterday at the main hall. The second seat was empty. It was reserved for Victor, as the seats were ordered by the family's ranks. His brother Rex was seated on the next seat with his girlfriend by his side. The mark of Lily's slaps was not visible on her cheeks anymore. They were covered by the trace of 3 new slaps. She must have offended someone else. After that, the nervous Iris was sitting next to Zoe, who was looking around at the table. They never had such diverse kinds of foods where she came from. She wouldn't even consider some of them food. But they looked delicious. "Sorry I am late, I had to educate a naughty maid," Victor said casually as he entered the room, then smiled at his mother and the girls. "It was him, husband, him, and that bitch. They hit me," Rex's girlfriend yelled suddenly as she pointed at Victor and Lily. Theodore only frowned and looked at Rex, who quickly pulled his girlfriend, then whispered something in her ear, making her shrink her neck and shut up. Rex knew his girlfriend well. She must have tried to boss his half-brother around and got what she deserved. As her husband, no matter what she did, he felt responsible to take revenge for her. But Victor's position in the family far outstrips his. So he could do nothing directly. Maybe he would take revenge on Lara when he guides her later. Victor quickly found his seat and sat down, as Lily stood behind him respectfully helping him get seated. Victor wanted her to sit with him, but this was still not the right time. "How dare you be late? You should apologize sincerely and greet us before sitting at the table." His first mother scolded him as she pointed at him. He didn't reply, just gave his dish to Lily, who proceeded to fill it up. His action made Marta angry. "How dare you ignore me like that?" she asked. "Husband, say something," she said as she turned to Theodore, who had just finished chewing a piece of toast. But before he could say something, Victor beat him to it. "You are the one who should greet me. I am now an elite heir. How dare you stay seated when I entered the room? Don't you know that I can flog you for that? If it were not for my esteemed father's presence, I would have punished you," Victor said proudly, before taking a deep breath and adding, "Not only did you not appreciate my kindness, you also want this young master to apologize." "I already said sorry. What do you want me to do more than that? Crawl under your feet? Who do you think you are?" Victor said, spraying saliva at his mother's face and dish as he shouted, making his brothers frown. Especially Rex, whose mother was being scolded. Lily quickly used a handkerchief to wipe her young master's mouth as Theodore chuckled. "He is right, Marta, it's your fault this time," Theodore said with a sigh. Yesterday he heard from the patriarch that his mother, Anne, had approved of giving Arya to Victor, which made him very relieved, and somewhat pleased. His rebellious son, who hid deeply before, was showing his true color. Not bad at all. On the other hand, his wives need some education every now and then, or they would think that they own the entire world. It would be better if Marta was put in her place before Luna gets here. Marta gritted her teeth and then chose to ignore Victor completely. As for Elena, she was astonished by her son's temper. "Is this really my son? When did he grow a pair of balls? And is that quiet girl the maid Lily who talks to me all the time?" she wondered. Luke and John frowned, not knowing how to act. They just looked at Victor and then inspected Lily, who was still wearing her veil. She had pretty eyes. Too bad they couldn't see her face clearly. Maybe they should find a chance later to punish her. Theodore noticed the perverted look in his son's eyes but said nothing. Living with pretty maids without touching them was part of the family's training. It helps with both discipline and apparently bloodline awakening. Thankfully Lily wore a veil. A dose of her breathtaking beauty was not something that those 2 virgin boys of his can handle. They would probably lose their minds and virginity the moment they see her. Iris and Zoe smiled a little at Victor, and inspected Lily silently but said nothing. Zoe really liked how Victor yelled at that nasty woman. She wanted to do the same when the little girl, Lara, was being scolded, but Falcon's stern eyes warned her not to. "He is so manly," she thought. "Let's continue our meal." Theodore said after a little cough, then ate another bite of his jam-covered toast before slowly turning to Lara, who was having difficulty hiding her smile after Victor scolded the first mother. "How is your proficiency with the family art, Lara?" Theodore asked. It is getting better," she said after remembering what her big brother told her. "Good. You must work hard, your ceremony is nearing," he said, then turned to his other two sons. "The same goes for both of you, you should be ready next year. I expect you to do the same as Victor and surprise us all," he said. "Don't worry, father, I will guide them well," Rex said, as he looked at Lara with a knowing smile. "Yes, you did well with Lara. Too bad your potential was not that great," Theodore said. The more players' sons he had, the better his position in the family. "Father, about Susu, can I marry her?" Rex took the chance to ask. Theodore pondered as he looked at her. He really didn't like this chick. "Are you sure she is fit for you? Accepting her as a concubine wouldn't be a problem?" Theodore asked with a pondering look, wondering why did Rex choose such a woman. Victor also did the same. This slut was not anything special. She must be my main wife. I fell in love with her at first sight," Rex said with a fascinated look in his eyes, making Victor want to puke. Then stop, and activate his inspection skill on both of them. Susu Miller. STR 9. Int 13. Luck 15. Charm 21. Fate. Fate's power. B. Fate's direction. Positive. Fate's design. Lower concubine of Mike Von Weiss. Total. B+. Name. Rex Von Weiss. Level. 0. Class. Abnormal status. Charmed LOW. Authority. 1. Strength. 18. Agility. 16. Intelligence. 15. Luck. 10. Charm. 18. Order. 10. Skills. Minor sword arts E. Scheming F. Threatening look F. Fate status. Fate's power. D. Fate's direction. Neutral. Fate's design. Unspecified. Total. D. Victor was speechless. He had just figured many things out. First of all, this bitch was the one his big brother stole from Rex. Mike has a thing for bitches and prostitutes. Secondly, she must have put some kind of a love spell on Rex. Probably bought a genuine talisman from some idiotic hidden expert peddler by chance. Stuff like this happens when fate intervenes. Better stay out of this mess, he thought, as Lily stuffed an egg in his mouth when she saw him inspecting Susu so intensely. Pervert young master. Theodore looked at Rex and his girlfriend for a while, then sighed. He really didn't like this woman and couldn't understand why Rex wanted her as the main wife. "You live in Tiara City, right? It's near Nuller. I will tell Mike to look into her. If he finds nothing wrong, I will approve," Theodore said, making Rex smile while holding Susu's hand under the table. He was really happy. She wasn't. She has just realized that her stupid boyfriend was not that powerful and that there are people with higher ranks in his family. Maybe she could seduce one of his brothers. But not that Victor. She was not into rough guys. "Now, to the main business," Theodore said. "Iris, Zoe. Both of you must be ready by noon. We will take the boat to the main island for your ceremony," he explained. "Can't we take the helicopter, like yesterday?" Zoe asked while Iris got a little nervous. "No, it is a part of the tradition to go there by boat. In olden times they used to sail there by wooden boats," he said while reminiscing about his ceremony. But Victor noticed something else in his father's eyes. Love, regret, yearning. There is a story there. And Victor, you will come too. Not many elders are present and as an elite, you can help us," his father said, not explaining further because not everyone here was a player. They wanted him to help them by channeling his energy into the orb. Activating that thing takes a lot of stamina in addition to a mountain of gems. "I understand. Will there be other participants?" Victor asked. Yes, the ceremony for 1 to 10 participants would cost the same, so there would be 8 others, mostly servants, as any suitable candidate had already attended with you, Theodore said. Making Victor consider whether to take Lily's sisters. Better not, he thought. He didn't want any of them to die. And if by any chance they all succeeded, wouldn't they take them away from him? He would be better off sending them dungeon diving with his other maids later. Although undiscovered dungeons are rare, he remembers the news about a couple. He would have to check them though, as he was not sure of the authenticity of such information. Whatever, fixing Lara's blood is what he wants to focus on now. "Father, I was wondering if you can allow Lara to spend a few days with me in Vane City. She has never seen the outside world and it is not good for her to stay cooped up here," Victor asked. He needs to enhance her blood and teach her a few more things. The earlier the better. That would disturb her training. Rex interjected. Theodore hesitated. Lara was homeschooled because she had a weak constitution, but after training in the arts for the last 2 years her body seemed to have gotten a little better. It's not bad for her to go out and see the world. How about I take her with me to stay with Victor for a few days there next month? I need to do something there anyway. Elena said with a complex look that only Victor understood. Fine by me, but Victor, you will have to supervise Lara's training there instead. Theodore said, while wondering if he should introduce Elena to Luna. Luna would probably have to come here if her baby had a pure bloodline, and meeting one of her sisters beforehand is not a bad idea. Lara smiled sweetly after hearing her father's approval. Yay, she is going to stay with her brother. After that, Theodore proceeded to ask John and Luke about their education and then talk with Falcon about the trivial things he was doing in the mountains while monitoring Zoe. Iris and Zoe seemed to have hit it off. They kept talking together despite the age difference. Iris was 3 years older. Uncle Falcon, I want to stay with Iris after the ceremony. Zoe suddenly requested. That will have to depend on your results, and it's the family's decision after that, Falcon said as he looked at Victor, while silently swearing that he would make sure that she didn't get anywhere near this pervert. Theodore chuckled as he saw the way Zoe looked at his son. That's how a Von Weiss should be. After breakfast, Victor was dragged to a side room where his mother made him sit on a couch next to her after hugging him hard. Then she began to question him about his living conditions in Vane City. Didn't Lily tell you everything? Victor asked. She only tells me that you are okay, or that you found a new girl. Nothing else. His mother puffed her cheeks and inspected her son. When did he become a pervert? Were the rumors true? Impossible, she raised him herself. Well, it is as Lily told you. I just spend all day lazing around or visiting the company to find new girls. He lied. He couldn't tell his mother that he spent the last week doing dungeon diving and corrupting innocent girls. You are just like your father, just make sure to choose nice girls, not like those your father likes. Elena snorted as she thought of her husband's other wives. Don't worry, I chose Lily to be my main wife, he said, making his mother turn to look at Lily who was silently standing to the side. Come here Lily, let your mother-in-law see your face, Elena said as she looked at the blushing Lily who removed her veil after Victor nodded to her. Elena gasped when she looked at her face. Can a girl be this pretty? She quickly began to inspect Lily thoroughly. She really liked this girl. She is very gentle, sensible, and well-educated. She could tell from the way she spoke to her on the phone. Not bad, she said, then looked at Victor. You have to take good care of her, she added, making Lily blush more. If he bullied you, just tell me. I will punish him for you. Don't worry about her. You better worry about yourself. Father has a new wife candidate. She might be granted the main wife position, he said, making his mother squint her eyes. Really? She asked. Yup, if you come to Vane City you can meet her. I think she is really nice. She helped me a lot, he said. In his previous life, Luna's relationship with his mother was a little strained. Probably because of the other wives plotting. So Victor wants to make them friends as fast as possible. I will see about that, Elena said with a sigh. Now come on, we have some time before noon. Tell me what you did this past week, she asked, making Victor begin to tell her all about his new company and new maids. Confirming her conclusion, she has given birth to a pervert. Just like his father. Chapter 112, Traitors. A yacht left the island at noon carrying 5 people. Theodore, Falcon, Victor, Iris, and Zoe. Lily was not allowed to attend the ceremony because of her rank, so Victor gave her a small mission and left her in his father's mansion under the pretense of accompanying his mother, who surprisingly played along. Iris and Zoe were absent-minded most of the time, probably nervous about the trip. While Falcon was discussing family politics with Theodore. Can I ask a question? Iris asked suddenly, making Theodore look at her. Go ahead, he said. Isn't there another way of awakening? A way that doesn't involve death? She asked timidly. There are other methods, Theodore said. Look at Victor, he was able to convert his mates into players by randomly poking at some rocks in a mountain, Theodore said with a smirk, making Falcon look at him wanting to hear the story. So Victor had no choice but to tell them how he wanted to explore that mountain with his friend and just so happened to discover the dungeon that eluded his father for years. Falcon nodded. What a lucky bastard, he thought. So can we find a dungeon, isn't it safer? Asked Zoe with some enthusiasm. She was really looking forward to conquering dungeons and killing monsters. Easier said than done. I knew people who spent their entire lives looking for one and died in some desolate mountain without achieving anything. And even if you found one, can you clear it? Many dungeons get discovered by normal people, who end up dead inside. Falcon said. Theodore nodded. Are there any other ways? Zoe asked. Many, they are rare but equally dangerous, Falcon said. You see, every aristocratic family has a method. Some are relatively safe but only grant a semi-player status while others are dangerous but rewarding. Take the Von Rosen family for example. Their method of awakening is to perform a summoning ritual with the aid of their artifact. The participant would have to be able to handle the demon's curse. If he succeeded he would get a summoner class. And the rewards increase the stronger the demon they summon. But on the other hand, it can only be attempted by women and they have a 70% death rate. Falcon said, making Iris, who remembered the demon that attacked her, shiver. Any other methods? Zoe, who got really interested, asked. Some of them are as simple as drawing a sword from a stone. But if you fail, the sword will grow a mouth and devour you. Some methods are very complicated and tiresome. Like dancing naked around a mountain 1,000 times while doing intricate movements. I even heard of some single-use awakening artifacts and talismans. I have never seen one though. Falcon added with a smile. Now go relax. There will be time for such talk later when you become players. He said, making Zoe a little deflated, but she quickly regained her vigor and grabbed Iris and began to ask her about life in the city. Ah, that reminds me. Theodore turned to Victor, who was feigning watching the waves while being busy monitoring his blood slave through his system. Tom had just got something interesting that made Victor want to hurry back to Vane City. Victor, you cleared a dungeon last week, what is your level now? Theodore suddenly asked him. 10, Victor lied. What? Theodore shouted in surprise. He expected Victor's level to be 3 or 4. Clearing an F-leveled dungeon didn't yield much experience usually, but as a newbie, Victor didn't need many points to level up. I don't know, but I happen to have killed this strange goblin there. The system told me that it is worth a lot of express. Victor said. Theodore frowned, but Falcon interjected. It is rare, but not unheard of. Sometimes the dungeons would contain some strange things in rules that yield a lot of express. I heard of a man who leveled up after doing nothing in the dungeon but stepping on beetles. He said, making Theodore nod. He has heard of that story too. He could only look at his son and utter, lucky bastard, under his breath. It took him 1 whole year to get to level 10 when he was a newbie. As he had to fight behind an army of family grunts whose job was to protect him. Victor did it in 1 freaking week. Well, this would make things much easier. There is a coming raid, as a new dungeon was bought by the family. The primary appraisal is that it is C rank, maybe even C+. Theodore said, don't let it fool you, dungeons scale at an exponential rate, so a C-level dungeon would be about 1,000 times more dangerous than the F-rank one you cleared. He added after seeing the look in his son's eyes. How many people are going? Falcon asked. My team consists of 30 people, there are 3 other teams with a total of about 100 players, 10 of us are veterans. If we take more than 2 weeks, the family would send another 100. Theodore said, are you interested in coming along, Mr. Falcon? I will think about it, Falcon said as he caught Zoe's eyes. They were full of expectations. When is the raid? And who is going? Victor asked. It's still undecided, but maybe next month. The dungeon is near New Lure City. Theodore said, making Victor nod. Maybe he would go with Lily. She needs to level up. But he needs to buff the mansion's security before that. Last night's attack left him worried. Victor returned to his meditation as his father chuckled and also returned to his conversation with Falcon. He was talking about the new mushroom he found and how he would try it at a mass scale at the raid. Unlike last time, the yacht went straight to the main island. And reached there 2 hours later, where a luxurious car was waiting for them to take them uphill. To the ceremony hall, where the guards greeted them respectfully and invited them in. Soon they reached the first hall, where an elder in a ceremonial gown greeted them. Iris, Zoe, you go with the elder. Victor, you follow me. Theodore said as he entered the inner hall followed by Falcon. Don't worry, you will be fine. Victor gave Iris and Zoe some encouragement before following after his father to the inner chamber, where many servants wearing special robes were piling gems according to a formation on the ground under the supervision of a fat elder. Ah, Theodore, you are here on time. The elder said. Falcon, you are here too, it's been a while. He greeted Falcon too, who nodded in acknowledgement. Nice to meet you, Tony, how are the preparations? Theodore asked. We are almost done. The elder, Tony, said. This ceremony was on short notice so we had to work overnight. He added. Just then, an old man with white purplish hair and a crooked nose entered the hall with the patriarch. Everyone quickly saluted, including Theodore and Falcon, making Victor quickly follow with a frown. Who was that man? He never met him or read about him before, that's strange. And why did all the elders tense up? Including his father. The only one who remained relaxed was Falcon, who didn't seem to be very pleased. But from their looks, they didn't expect to see this guy here. Name: Cassius von Weiss. Level: 119. Class: Formation Master. Authority: 11. Strength: 265. Agility: 273. Intelligence: 302. Luck: 53. Charm: 49. Order: 52. Skills: Formation Arts S. Sword Arts A. Hidden Hand A. Brewing A. Projectile A. Survivor A. Intimidating Stare A. Teaching A. Poison Tea Ceremony B. Knife Arts C. Quick Steps C. Hide Breath D. Cursing Adept D. Surveying D. Poetry D. Chess D. Cross-Dressing F. Equipment: Cane of the Lost Ones S. Storage Ring A. Greater Protection Rune A. Danger Sensing Necklaces A. Small Hidden Dagger E. Fate Status: Fate's Power C. Fate's Direction: Neutral. Fate's Design: Unspecified. Total C. Wow, this guy was stronger than both Falcon and Anne. The strange thing was that Victor has never heard of him or seen his name in the family's records. Wait, could he be part of the Black faction? Probably. Victor quickly looked at his father and worded black with his lips, to get an approving nod from his father. Are there members of that faction attending this ceremony too? Interesting. Cassius only nodded casually to the elders greeting him, then looked at Theodore and Victor with interest. No one knew what was on his mind. I expect this to be flawless. Marcos, the patriarch, said, making the elders nod. Victor, his father called him. You will have to stand on the circle on the ground inside, and accept the orb's request to draw energy from you, Theodore said, making Victor nod in response. He understands how these things work. A few minutes later, the candidates were guided by an elder to the ritual hall. Zoe and Iris were with them. A total of 4 boys and 6 girls. The one who grabbed Victor's attention was a beautiful girl who had long purplish black hair in long robes, and a brown-haired boy who was pestering her. Victor was wondering who those two were. They were not dressed as servants like the others. And Victor had no idea about them. Could they have been brought here by Cassius? Zoe was glaring at the boy with hatred while Iris was holding her off. Did they have a fight? Master Cassius, your granddaughter and adoptive son looks valiant. An elder decided to suck up to Cassius, answering Victor's question in the process, making him use his appraisal skill to discover something that he never expected. Rita von Weiss. STR 24. Int 19. Luck 17. Charm 22. Fate. Fate's Power. A. Fate's Direction. Positive. Fate's Design. Main wife of Levi von Sway. Total. A. Bloodline Elder Dragon 95% Purity. Carlos Maida von Sway. Effects and States. Disguise Talisman Effect SA equals 20. STR 21 30. Int 17 23. Luck 14 16. Charm 16 20. Fate. Fate's Power. B. Fate's Direction. Positive. Fate's Design. Unspecified. Total. B. Bloodline. 100% Purity. Yes, my granddaughter has achieved the 3rd level of the family's art. I expect great things from her. He said, failed to notice the hatred in Victor's eyes. This guy was a traitor. And Levi von Sway was someone who he would never forget. Not only was he one of the sons of the von Sway family's new patriarch. He was one of the followers of the guy who killed his family. Yes, Levi was one of his enemies. And that Carlos has a clear von Sway in his name. What is he doing here? He never heard of him before. He is definitely a spy. Those two must die. But how? Maybe they would die by themselves in the ceremony, but that was highly unlikely looking at their bloodlines. As for the other participants, they had nothing special, just some poor souls who were forced here. Victor first decided to test the water, so he approached Rita and introduced himself. Hi there, my name is Victor, nice to meet you. He said as he raised his hand to shake hers. Victor von Weiss, I know who you are. Don't even think about touching me, pervert. She spat, then ignored him, making his father, who was watching from the back, chuckle with the elders. He was not the first one to try to approach her here. Carlos slowly walked to Victor and whispered. Rita is mine, never try to touch her ever again. Pervert, he said coldly, then followed after her. Victor frowned, then looked at Zoe, who was still giving that guy death stares. What happened? He whispered to Iris. That guy just said that the way Zoe ate was like a monkey, and that made her angry. She replied, making Victor shake his head. Enough chit-chat, let's begin. The patriarch scolded, giving Victor a stare, then approached the gate to open it in a ceremonial manner before inviting everyone in. Chapter 113, Choice. After arranging the participants in their places, the elders, followed by Victor, entered the ritual hall in order to form a circle around the glowing orb. Orb of the Bloody Virgin, Awakening Artifact. A rank. Test potential and awaken players. Conditions. Virgin. Alive. Human. Test points. Martial arts potential. Higher is better. Mystic arts potential. Higher is better. Fate potential. Higher is better. Bloodline purity and awakening. Higher is better. Age. Lower is better. Victor nodded as he saw it, just as expected. He thought as he quickly found his place next to his father. Player notice. Do you want to participate in the awakening ceremony? Name. Victor von Weiss. Role. Supporter. Yes, no. The system menu appears in front of Victor, and he was about to press yes. When he thought of something, can there be other roles? He tried to change it from the system menu but failed. It would have been cool if he could manipulate the ritual. Like a system admin. Wait, what if he changed his name? His disguise skill would work on the system since he has a higher authority. He quickly changed his name to System 11C54H. This was the name that appeared in the log message during his ceremony. But nothing happened. Victor stepped out of the circle and then back in, gaining himself a few harsh stares from the elders. He could only shrug and look at the notice again. Player notice. Do you want to participate in the awakening ceremony? Name. System 11C54H. Authority. Error. Access denied. Role. Please choose. Yes, no. Success. He quickly looked at the role options. Supporter, Observer, and Admin. Choosing Admin, he pressed yes, to feel himself get connected to the orb just as everyone was seated and the elder began to activate it. When the participants began to growl in pain, it was as if the time stopped for him. He could see all the participants' test results updating in real time until they stopped. And the world turned black. Everything was suspended naked and still in the dark void. Victor could observe the 10 participants. Everyone was suspended in midair, but they were inanimate as if time had stopped. This is the end test phase. When it happened to him he never felt it. Victor felt as if he could control how time flowed here for a limit of 3 days. So he slowly floated from one participant to the other observing their results. Iris collected 1919 points, missing the player mark by a small margin. Her martial arts and mystic arts potential was abysmal as she had no formal training in the family. Can Victor manipulate the results? Affirmative, he can. He can raise the points to the limit of 4,999. He quickly gave Iris the score of 2,990, he can't make her stand out too much. Zoe had a good body, despite the short stature. Did she wrap her chest with something to make it smaller? He wondered. She didn't need his help. She had 3,400 points by herself. Thanks to her multiple bloodlines and SS fate. Victor decided to help her a little and added another 400 points to her score. She is his cousin after all. As for the rest of the servants, he didn't touch them. Too much manipulation would make the family suspicious. He only helped one girl though. She had a score of 999. He felt that she was too pitiful and gave her 100 extra points. She made him remember when he failed an exam missing 1 mark in the past. But after another thought her returned and pushed all the servants' points to 1,000 at least. This would make Rita's and Carlos's death more dramatic. Rita had 3,471 points, while Carlos had 3,213 points. Victor slowly inspected Rita's body for a while. She was very pretty, had a slender body that was shaped by years of sword training, and a long flowing hair. She was about 30% on the lily scale. She must have used makeup to hide her true beauty. What a pity, she was destined to die. He made both their scores 1 point. Just for their virginity. Serve them right. How dare they call him a pervert? With this, he would get rid of another trouble. He has now concluded that the Black faction was agents of the Von Sway. Just how many powers have infiltrated his family? Victor watched as the ceremony resumed, and as the participants' faces changed to joy and despair. Especially Rita and Carlos. Their faces went white. "Why?" yelled Carlos, while Rita began to sob, making Victor strike his head as he thought of something evil. "Why didn't I think of that before?" he wondered as he began to move. Ellipsis. "The system could not read your data. Error." A mechanical voice rang in Carlos's ear, making him look around but see nothing, just the endless void. "Due to the effect of a talisman, the system failed to test your data. The system will require the participant to summarize his life experience for another chance." The sound said. Carlos hesitated a little. At first, he chose to remain silent, but as he watched the timer on the screen go down, he chose to speak and began to talk. He lied first, but the system ignored him until he began to tell the truth about how he was an agent from the von Swaymain family. He was chosen to be the stepson of Cassius, who agreed to work with his family after losing the battle for the patriarch position to Ahmm. Hearing that, Victor nodded. All the trouble in the family was the result of the family's power struggle for the patriarch position 30 years ago. Too many people were unhappy after Ahmm grabbed power. Carlos was sent here to be a spy and try to control a part of the von Weiss family. In addition to that, to try to attend the ceremony here. As he was not compatible with his family's awakening artifacts and had a bigger chance here. They clearly knew what the test here required. Carlos watched the points go up one by one as he spoke, making him have hope again. Many secrets were revealed to the system for the next 10 hours as the timer slowed down. Victor learned of many secrets, many he had never known before. Some of them were secrets about the Black Faction. Soon, Carlos felt despair as the points stopped at 998. He had nothing more to tell. The system now knows everything about him, from the fact that he likes Rita, who was engaged to his older brother, to the color of his underwear and Rita's underwear too. Wait, Levi was his older brother? Victor noticed. This means that Carlos was also the son of the new patriarch of the von Sway family. A big fish fell on his chopping block. What should be Cassius's reaction when this idiot dies? Victor wondered as he left Carlos, who was shouting in anger, and headed towards Rita and did the same. This girl was raised by her father and grandfather to be a bride for Levi von Sway, whom she adored since childhood. You have triggered the von Weiss spy detection mechanism. The system found your tendency to betray your family disgusting, but will give you a chance. Rita watched the timer with fear and nodded. Her grandfather has explained that if she didn't get enough points when the timer reaches 0, she would be erased. Choose one guy from the von Weiss family in the ceremony room and swear to be his maid forever. The system will monitor your behavior. If you betray again, you would be eliminated. Victor said in a system voice. He wants to use this one. A double agent is never bad. Rita pondered. Is this really her last chance? Who can she choose? Her grandfather. The candidate can only be young. You have to make him accept you by yourself. If you fail or he refuses you, you will be eliminated. The voice added. After thinking for a while, Victor's dazzling smile appeared in her mind. Does she really want to be that pervert's maid? No, never. She heard tales about his perverted games. I choose Timmy. She said he was one of the assistant boys who tried to approach her earlier. Timmy. Analyzing. By choosing Timmy you gain 30 points to a total of 31 points. Are you sure? No, she yelled quickly. She needs at least 1,000 points. After thinking for another 5 minutes, she chose one idiot after another. How many guys jumped on this girl's face? In the ceremony chamber alone, more than 30. And she remembered all their names. Victor didn't know if he should be afraid or impressive. Unfortunately, the most she got was 900 extra points. Not enough. At last, while biting her fingernail, she chose Victor. Analyzing. By choosing Victor you gain 4,500 points to a total of 4,501 points. Are you sure? Rita was surprised. Yes, she answered as she watched the timer go down. Those are a lot of points. Conditions. Must not tell anyone about what happened here. Not even your chosen master. The chosen master must accept you to be his maid in 4 hours. Can never betray the chosen master, Victor, and you have to comply with all his demands. Follow the system's arrangements from now on and it would guide you to greatness. In case of failure to comply with any of the above conditions, you would be terminated. Do you accept? She bit her lip, then said yes and began to adjust her class and skills when the screen proceeded. Victor smiled and looked around at the others. Time passed differently for everyone. So they have already finished choosing. Zoe chose, as expected, an overpowered protagonist rate class. Hero. This class has its perks, but it made Victor adjust his intended relationship with her. He must make sure to be the ally that appears when she needs him rather than the one who follows her. as that would make him get swept away by her destiny. Iris was a thief. What? Was she doing some shoplifting lately? The class and skills usually reflect real-life skills. It seems that this sister of his has a dark side to her. She was not as innocent as she seems after all. He should investigate her more thoroughly when he returns to Vane City. The servants now had enough points to survive. They were semi-players thought, so they had no class. But their lives will turn for the better from now on, as they would be granted a better position in the family. As for Rita, the system gave her only 2 choices for the class. Sword maid or bed warming maid. She chose the former after some thought. And with that, the ceremony ended. And Victor's consciousness returned to his body in the ritual hall, to feel a wave of exhaustion assault him. His stamina was drained, but the gains were worth it. Chapter 114, Confession. 2. When Victor opened his eyes, the ceremony was over. Everyone was looking around with astonishment, as the assistants entered to take the bodies of the failed participants but found only one. Is it because of the low number of participants? Theodore had a big smile on his face, and so did Falcon after seeing that Iris and Zoe were fine. While Cassius, who should be happy about his granddaughter's survival, wasn't. He didn't even look at her when he ran fanatically to Carol's body to inspect him after yelling at the assistants to stay away. After a few moments, he stood up and carried Carlos's body out by himself. His face didn't look good. To others, he appeared sad because of the passing of his adopted son. He never knew he liked him that much. But Victor knew that he was scared silly. Carlos was not supposed to die here. Cassius took the corpse by himself to avoid anyone discovering something about it. He needed to return it to Von Sway after all. Cassius was in a deep sh*t at this moment. When Carlos was entrusted to him, his father was not the patriarch yet, and Carlos was sent on this mission by his uncles to limit his father's influence. But that man's power and ambition exceeded their expectations and was able to grab the patriarch's seat. The first thing he did after that was to send a letter to Cassius to send Carlos home after the ceremony. But after this, Cassius's own head was the one going to be sent flying. Rita was not really surprised that her grandfather didn't even spare her a glance. But that didn't stop her from feeling sad. She knew pretty well that she was just a disposable pawn in eyes. She was raised all her life to be just a bargaining chip to be married off. A way for her faction to connect to the Von Sway family. No matter how much she trained and exceeded their expectations, her grandfather would not spare her a glance. She could only sigh and then look nervously at Victor. Was what the system told her true? Would this young lady really be terminated if she didn't become this pervert's maid? She wondered. Everyone, follow me to the waiting hall, your names would be called later. An assistant said, making the still astonished participants follow him one by one with smiles appearing on their faces. Especially the servants who had long resolved themselves to their grim fate. Do I have to go to the appraisal room with you? I am really tired, Victor asked his father. No need, your stamina has been exhausted. Go find a place to rest, we will return home together. Theodore said after seeing how pale Victor's face was, then hurried after the patriarch who left while asking around if any of the elders had any idea about this ritual's high success rate. It was 90%. Victor sighed and then left the hall after a few minutes. He deliberately found a chance to pass by the hall where the participants were sitting. Then, in a loud voice, he arrogantly asked a servant there to guide him to the restroom. This was a signal to give Rita a chance to meet him. He must secure her as his blood slave before she gets any other thoughts. As expected, Rita stood up and hurried after Victor under the same excuse. After seeing Victor enter the men's room, she took a deep breath and then went after him. What do you want? I thought you don't like perverts. But it seems you are one. This is the men's room, you know. Victor told her harshly, making her shrink her neck, then clench her fist, when she entered the room. She was about to rebuke him when a timeout screen appeared in front of her. She swallowed, then took a deep breath. I have a confession to make, she said in a low voice. What? Victor asked her. I want to be your maid, she said with a heavy blush. Fa. Victor acted surprised. He looked around then asked. Is this some kind of prank? Or a perverted play? He asked with disgust. No, she said as tears filled her eyes. This is too humiliating. Why does this young lady have to do this? No, I will tell you something, please don't tell anyone, she begged. What? Victor said in a horrified voice. I fell in love with you at first sight, she said, blushing more. And what? You have a maid fetish? He asked sarcastically, helping her a little. No, yes, please accept me, this young lady would die if you refuse her. She said pleadingly. You would go that far? He asked with a strange worried tone as if he misunderstood her. Yes, she said as she bit her delicate lip. Please accept me as your maid. I don't have much time. She said, not realizing that her requests were a little unreasonable, but the countdown screen was driving her crazy. Look, you are pretty, but I am not that interested. I only wanted to greet you as your cousin earlier, who would think that you would treat me so rudely? He said as if he was still holding a grudge. It is my fault, I deserve to be punished for my impudence. Please accept me, she said, her face and ears getting redder. Ah, I can't accept you as a lover, but as a maid, it is possible. But you have to be faithful, you would not regret it? He asked with a strange look. I won't, I really need to be your maid, she answered as she lowered her head. She was already regretting it. A maid, huh? What can you do? He asked as if still unconvinced. I can dance, sing and play the piano and violin. She answered but could only see a disdainful look in his eyes. I can do that too, she said in a soft voice. Why would that make me interested? I already have tons of maids who would gladly warm my bed. At least 3 of them are prettier than you, he said, making her blush while wondering if she was really useless. What else? I have no need for useless girls, he said. I don't know if you like warrior girls, but I am good with the sword and the bow. My class is sword maid, she said as the last hope as the countdown screen shimmered above. She never believed that a guy would be interested in a girl who liked martial arts. Really, you are not lying to get me interested? He asked with interest, making her surprised. No, really, you can test me, she said firmly. Her parents and Carlos always told her to abandon martial arts, and just do enough to pass the ceremony. And that a girl like her should focus more on feminine arts where her skills can be used for their benefit. Fine then, I will believe you for now, but from now on you will be my maid. You can never betray me. Would you really follow all my commands? He asked, making her nod while blushing. Then kneel on the ground first, he told her, regaining his young master's arrogant persona, making her startled. She hesitated for a moment not knowing what to do. What, you don't want this young master to be your master anymore? He asked as the countdown system screen spelled a nasty threat. Do you want to die B*TCH? She sobbed and compiled with tears dripping from her eyes. This is too humiliating. She was raised as a young mistress her entire life, why does she have to go through this? Is death better? No, she wanted to live, she wanted to see the outside world. Especially now, she was a full player. And a powerful one at that. She can travel all around the world as a warrior. As for Levi, she didn't really care about him. She felt some affection, but she knew that she was brainwashing herself since childhood, as she knew that she never had the choice in that matter. As for betraying the family or working for them, what difference does it make? She was meant to be a toy anyway. Victor smiled evilly when he saw her kneeling, then cut his finger with a dagger and put it in front of her face. Suck it, and lick it cleanly, he said, making Rita sob a little as she sucked his finger completely. Now I am this pervert's toy, she thought. Suddenly, both of them heard the sound of the door squeaking, making them hurriedly turn to the right to look. They saw a startled girl peeking through the slightly opened door. She had a heavy blush on her face and her name was Iris. Sorry to disturb you, you can continue, she said as she ran away, making Rita retreat quickly and cover her face, and sob loudly. This young lady can never wash off her shame. Victor frowned. He never expected that his big sister's thief class was so amazing at sneaking. But what was that girl doing sneaking around to the men's room? It doesn't matter. He needs to finish this before Cassius returns. That guy was probably arranging transport for the corpse at the moment. Blood ritual detected. Do you want to register a new blood slave? He pressed yes, without hesitation. This one would be his perfect spy. Registration complete 4 quarters. You are my secret maid from now on, he said, making her look at him. I am not a monster, I will not reveal your secret fetish, nor will I humiliate you in front of others, but you have to be obedient, understood? He asked arrogantly, making her nod as she looked at him with a strange gaze. That's it, no more perverted requests. You can go on with your life. This is my phone number, if I called you, be sure to answer, he said, giving her his number. Don't worry, I may be a pervert but I would never force someone, he said, making her nod in a daze. She seemed to have misjudged him. I know that you are a pervert, but you can't stay here in the men's room. he told her, suddenly making her blush and run out as she saw a screen appearing in front of her eyes. The secret maid system has been bound successfully. Your master is Victor von Weiss, be sure to serve him well and all your dreams would come true. First mission. Desecrate the body of Carlos von Sway. How dare he threaten my dear master? Ellipsis. Iris was heavily blushing when she returned to her seat in the waiting room. She was going to the ladies' room when she spotted Rita following her brother, so she decided to try her new skill and spy on them. She was worried that she would hurt him. But what she heard when eavesdropping exceeded her expectations. Did her brother really let that arrogant Rita do that? She didn't see it well. Who would have thought that Victor had that kind of a charm? He only met that girl for a few minutes. Well, he is handsome. Is everything okay? Zoe, who was sitting next to her and stuffing her mouth with a bun, asked after seeing her flushed face. Yeah, I am just a little hot, Iris answered. Pervert little brother, pervert Rita. Her family was full of perverts. She needs to be careful, she told herself as an assistant came calling for her. So she hurriedly stood up and followed him. On the way out she met Rita, who was returning from the restroom. She had a blush on her face. She gave Iris a threatening glare but said nothing, so Iris decided to ignore her as well. Chapter 115, Night Visit. Victor didn't have to wait for long, as 2 hours later his father left the hall with Falcon and the girls. The smile on their faces was grander than when they went in. Let's go celebrate, his father told him as they headed to his mansion on the main island. The results were supposed to be announced tomorrow, so they would stay here tonight. When they reached the mansion, a grand meal was already prepared by George, who greeted them respectfully. Iris was nervous earlier, so she was very hungry. As for Zoe, who has already eaten in the waiting hall, she didn't mind having another meal. What are your classes? Victor asked them as they sat at the table. Victor, you can't ask such a question, his father warned. It's okay, I am a hero, and Iris is a thief, Zoe shouted before Falcon could stop her. You shouldn't give your information this easily. He warned her with a stern voice and then a sigh, this girl will always do what she wants. Zoe just poked her out playfully, making him shake his head. This girl is hopeless. Ah, a hero. That's interesting. What does it mean? Victor asked. It is a rare class. It provides proficiency in all weaponry, and in theory, you would get more experience and skills the more you do good things. Theodore said, you must not tell anyone about this though, it would make you a target for the family's enemies. But I wonder how many good things have you done for the system to grant you this class? He added, making Zoe blush a little. She has always been more fit than the others in the family and liked using her powers to help others. If the class has something to do with a person's life, then why is big sister Iris a thief? Victor asked the question he was intending to ask, making Falcon and Zoe look at her. They also wanted to know. Ah, she hesitated as Theodore looked at her. I want to know that too, he asked. The report George gave him didn't include anything of this sort. Well, she said, my adoptive mother was a thief, and she taught my younger adoptive sister and me how to do it. We had even gone on a few missions with her. She answered embarrassingly. Why are you so poor then? He asked her. The report clearly stated that they didn't have money for her father's operation and that she needed to work 2 jobs to keep her sister in school. Well, my adoptive mother hid the truth from my father, who discovered everything when she died on a mission, so he forbade us from stealing. He said, he would rather die than take a tainted penny, so we swore to him that we would never do it again. She said while keeping her face down, making everyone a little surprised. This girl was not as useless as she seems to be. How good are you precisely? Victor suddenly asked. Well, my mother was the Blue Phantom Thief. I haven't reached her level, but she praised me repeatedly as a natural. She said, making everyone, including George who was supposed to investigate her, gasp. The Blue Phantom Thief was a legend. He stole many of the greatest treasures in the world. Then suddenly all of the sudden disappeared a few years ago. Many speculated that he retired. But it seems she passed away. Then what happened to all the money your mother gathered in her life? She must have had a lot. Victor asked again. Well, we don't know. That's the problem. Adoptive mother hid this very well and never told us. Iris said with a sigh. Adoptive father would not take any of it anyway. She added. Don't worry about such things, you would not need those things anymore, Theodore said, as he began to eat, secretly gesturing to George to try to find out everything about this. Those treasures would be of great use to the family. Oh, that reminds me, you will go with Zoe tomorrow to the main vault. She was granted elite status too. So you would need to enter the vault to select a treasure. Theodore said to Victor. What about Iris? He asked. Sadly, she is too old and was raised outside the family. And unlike Zoe, her class was not something the family really needed. But her attributes were good, so she was only granted a first-degree heir status. Theodore said as he sighed. The elders in the family didn't want Theodore to have a fourth elite descendant, so they pressured the patriarch into this. Oh, okay, said Victor as he looked at Zoe and smiled, making her blush a little. Ellipsis. Rita was overjoyed. She never thought that the family would grant her an elite status. But her joy was not long-lived, as her grandfather didn't even spare her a glance as he arranged a mahogany casket for Carlos's body as soon as they returned to their island. She could only sigh as she looked out of the window onto the moon-illuminated ocean. Tomorrow he sends the body to a secret meeting place on the pretense of burying Carlos in his hometown, where it would be given to Von Sway. She was hesitant at first, but after a few friendly electrical shocks from the system, she learned her place and decided to act. Her grandfather would be miserable, but what does that have anything to do with her? She went downstairs to the garden where many trained security hounds were patrolling. She randomly took 3 of them and headed to the main warehouse, where the body was placed, and prepared to be shipped in the morning. She was going to give him a night's visit. Thankfully no servants dared to wander here after her grandfather killed 2 of them. Their fault was for treating the casket a little too harshly when transporting it. She carefully removed the seals and opened the casket. Carlos's body was sleeping there peacefully. Not for long. She never liked this guy. He knew pretty well that she was his brother's fiancée, yet insisting on harassing and peeping on her. He wanted to control every aspect of her life. Now, look at what happened to him. Maybe it was the system. She didn't know. It was me. I wanted to make this spy a maid too, but he refused to be castrated, so this system punished him. I don't take no for an answer. The system said, making a shiver go up Rita's spine. She better do what this system says if she doesn't want to end up like him. She swallowed them one by one. She guided the well-trained dog to do their business on the corpse. They didn't like Carlos either. After finishing, while plugging her nose, Rita carefully sealed the casket back again, then she rubbed the casket using some oil and incense to hide the smell and ran away. Thankfully her attributes were very high, and she didn't get tired at all. When she returned to her room the system mission accomplishment menu appeared. Mission success. Reward. Your young master would think fondly of you tonight. The system started making her want to spit. Who would want that pervert to think fondly of her? But he was handsome. Suddenly her phone rang. It was an unknown number. Could it be really him? It was Victor, who said that he couldn't sleep thinking about her. What a pervert, she thought, but was not angry. She never felt so cared for in her life. And she liked the feeling. Victor proceeded to talk to her for an entire hour, then promised that they would meet tomorrow at the family vault to select a treasure. After hanging up, Rita was surprised at how easy and refreshing it was to talk to Victor. This guy was not too bad after all. She sighed thinking about her gloomy life, wondering what she should do. The system told you, follow me and you will be happy. Mission. Satisfy your young master tomorrow. Reward. The young master would give you a gift. Punishment. The young master would spank you in public. Satisfy. Ellipsis. After finishing his phone call with Rita, Victor called Lily and Arya to let them know that he will not return tonight. After that, he relaxed on his bed while looking at the ceiling. He didn't like the feeling of sleeping alone. Should he go to the brothel? There is one on the island. No, he can't touch women yet. Should he make Zoe a night visit? Also no, Falcon would probably castrate him. Iris. Also no. He didn't want her to hate him. He could only close his eyes and think of Lily as he slept when he noticed someone sneaking into the room from the window. He quickly used his disguise skill and stepped back carefully from the bed and looked at the intruder. Iris. She stood there over his bed. She was not normal. Her eyes were white, and blood was seeping from her nose. She had a savage look as eyes began to surface on her skin and close repeatedly. Name. Iris Black Von Weiss. Level. 0. Class. Thief. Abnormal status. Demonized by WEAK. Authority. 2. Strength. 33,999. Agility. 30,999. Intelligence. 26,999. Luck. 5. Charm. 21-999. Order. 10. Skills. Silent steps. A. Hide presence. B. Pickpocket. C. Fist arts, D. Eavesdropping, E. Fate's status. Fate's power, E. Fate's direction, negative. Fate's design. Death flag, approximately 30 minutes. Total. Negative E. Bloodline, Elder Dragon 75% purity. It is the same demon. This thing has probably discovered his mistake and returned for revenge. But how did it find him? It must have read Iris's memory. This thing was not low-leveled at all. It wanted to kill him before Iris, as completing his mission would send it back to whatever hell world it came from. Victor wondered what he should do. Fight. No way, that thing is powerful, but it seemed to be fooled by the illusion again. This has something to do with the authority, and made Victor frown. Could it be that his authority hack not only works in this world but others too? He quickly bought a dispelling charm from the store and pressed it on Iris's head. She was busy relishing as she bit his pillow. She let out a loud howl that would have woken up the entire mansion if not for the disguise he placed on the room. Slowly a demon's body began to separate from Iris, who fell unconscious on the ground as that black thing began to howl in pain, and began to look around in vigilance. This time Victor used the appraisal on him. Name, abnormal status, contract-bound target, Carla Rice and her descendants, contract satisfied 2/3. STR, 999,897,894,564. Int, 999,56,489,898. AGI, 999,897,894,564. Question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark. Question mark, question mark, question mark. Question mark, question mark, question mark. Shit, this thing was too powerful for him, unless. Victor carefully took out the needle he used on Dick. Can this be attacked from the outside? Probably not. Its body was somewhat ethereal. Maybe. He carefully stuck the needle on a pillow on the ground, then stepped away as the demon saw the pillow as Victor and attacked it with his mouth, biting it into shreds. This is the most amazing thing it has ever tasted. It couldn't help taking a few more bites until something stuck in its throat. It didn't have the time to howl as it disintegrated, leaving behind a bronze ring and a black gem that had 2 red stripes. This thing would probably grant him a lot of express, but he would have to wait until he clears a dungeon to cash it. Ring SS. Grants the ability to shift through shadows. This thing was amazing, he will have to test it. But not now. He quickly marked it with his blood and decided to call it the Shadow Shifter Ring. Shadow Shifter Ring SS. The name changed in his appraisal window as he pocketed it with the very expensive gem and the needle. Then hurried to check on Iris, who seemed to be a little exhausted, but fine otherwise. She would probably wake up in the morning. Victor quickly placed a healing pill in her mouth, then straightened her clothes and threw her on his bed. It looks like he didn't have to sleep alone tonight after all. Chapter 116. Romance the Vault. When Iris woke up, she was shocked when she discovered that she was hugging a man. He smelled nice. Was this a dream? What the hell? She quickly let go and pushed him away in shock when she saw his face. It was her brother Victor. It was her perverted brother. Am I dreaming? She wondered. What is he doing in my room? Wait. She quickly sat up and looked around. This was not the room she slept in yesterday. As she has slept with Zoe. This is definitely not a dream. She pinched herself to make sure. It hurt. Did this pervert bring her here? She checked her body. Her clothes were intact. If he did, then why? You, when did you come here? What did you do to me? At this moment she heard a scream. It was Victor, who stood up from the ground while clutching the blanket to his chest while pointing at her. You pervert, we are a sister and a brother, that thing is not appropriate. He yelled as he began to check his body. Iris froze for a few seconds. What? Was it not him? Bastard. He was definitely acting. She could tell from the smug smile on his face. She really wanted to smack that thing off his mouth. When did I get in here? Did you bring me here? She asked. And don't joke around or I would tell Theo, father. She threatened. She was in no mood for his jokes. I did nothing, he said as he stopped joking and sat on the bed. Last night you broke in through the window and hugged me to sleep. I couldn't say no to a pretty older sister like you, he said as he pointed to the window. Your tracks should be outside, he added. She quickly headed to the window and began to inspect it, and indeed, she could see traces of climbing on the foliage around it. And those footsteps on the windowsill were definitely hers. She felt very strange. Did I really sleepwalk? No, sleep climb. I went to sleep on the upper floor last night. She wondered silently. Was he lying? But her body was intact. She needed to check this thoroughly. Speak nothing of this, she warned him as she hastily escaped the room. Victor chuckled softly, as he stretched his arms. She was not good at all. No one can beat his Lily. Margaret was not bad though. He quickly jumped off the bed and headed to the bathroom to take a bath. After that, he got dressed and went downstairs. Why did you leave suddenly last night? Where did you sleep? The insensitive Zoe was asking Iris. They seemed to have slept together yesterday. Did you notice me when I left? Iris asked her. Yeah, you walked out like a zombie. I thought you went to the toilet. Zoe said. Yeah, I had a bad stomach ache. She said with some embarrassment. It's normal, you were nervous all day yesterday. Theodore, who was busy reading the paper, interjected, making Iris nod. Victor held his laugh as he sat at the table and began to eat the fried rice omelette a maid put on his dish as Iris shot him a glare. You better keep your mouth shut, was what she meant. The patriarch sent us a notice that you and Zoe were granted the right to select a treasure from the family's vault, so better get ready. Did you ask your grandmother for that? Theodore asked Victor. Yeah, when are we going? He asked his father. After 2 hours. He said, I want to take Iris on a trip around the island, so you will have to go with Zoe. Theodore answered casually. Are there many treasures there? What should I pick? Zoe, who was stuffing her mouth, asked enthusiastically. You can pick a good weapon or a fighting skill, Falcon said. The vault has a large collection of treasures, but going through them would take ages and you would only get 30 minutes. You would be only granted access to the first floor, so you would not miss anything important. So I advise you to follow your heart. He added, making her nod. Victor also nodded. This was very sound advice, especially for a scion. Those guys can pick a stone from any stall, and it would turn out to be a treasure. The meal ended quickly, and Victor excused himself and returned to his room, where he began to test his new toy, the shadow shifter ring. His plan had to be changed. He was planning on using Rita as a distraction to sneak into the hidden vault. But now, he doesn't need to do that. With this thing, the job has become much easier. He tried it repeatedly, and in the end, was able to precisely measure its effects. The ring would let him travel through the shadows for a distance of about 15 feet. This distance had something to do with his level. He tried to move further, but it was very slow and too energy intensive. He could basically pass through barriers like thick walls and floors, or use it to teleport to the shadow of an enemy. But this thing had a drawback: it does not work in the light, it needs very dim entrance and exit points. And if by any chance those points were suddenly illuminated, he would be stuck inside the shadows until it is dark again around him. After 1 hour, Victor guided Zoe to the family vault while Theodore decided to accompany Iris on a tour around the island. Falcon just gave Zoe an encouraging nod, then went somewhere with George. They took a car to the family's vault, a grand 5-story building carved on the side of the mountain rock. It was gilded with long panels of inscribed gold. Those were not ornaments, but defensive formations. This was one of the most secure buildings on the island. Legend says it was the house of the family's ancestor. A bald elder with mean eyes met them on the outside. Follow me, if you dared to touch anything without permission I would have to punish you. He warned coldly as he entered the building. They hastily followed inside, passing many levels of guards. Zoe was very nervous as she looked around. Don't worry, Victor told her, as he began to reminisce about this place. In his previous life, he didn't enter this place. But it ruins. That bastard ransacked the entire place and then burned it with hellfire. But that was good for Victor, as he was able to enter all the hidden rooms and protected hall as the defensive formations were destroyed. They quickly reached another hall where Rita was standing nervously waiting. She looked nervously at Victor when she saw him. How was she supposed to please him? Hand over your storage ring. An elder with a broad mustache was standing there. Ordered Victor harshly. It seems like Grandma had warned them. Victor carefully took the ring off his finger and gave it to the elder, who nodded after inspecting it, not noticing the other two that were hidden on Victor's other fingers. Dick's ring and the shadow shifter. The elder carefully inspected everyone before letting them through heavily guarded doors till they reached another hall where an old man with white receding hair was sweeping the floor with a broom in front of a majestic door. He had the word hidden expert written all over him. Travis von Weiss. Level 119. Class Grand Wizard. Authority 11. Strength 259. Agility 278. Intelligence 291. Luck 42. Charm 49. Order 45. Skills Magic Arts S. Staff Arts S. Fireball A. Telekinesis A. Omnivision A. Hide breath A. Projectile B. Survivor B. Quick steps C. Cleaning C. Play dead C. Peeping C. Hunting D. Surveying D. Swimming F. Beach volleyball F. Equipment. Magic broom A. Storage ring C. Fate status. Fate's power. B. Fate's direction. Neutral. Fate's design. Unspecified. Total. B. Grand Elder. Those are the kids the patriarch mentioned. The bald elder bowed respectfully and reported. Not so hidden after all. You have 30 minutes, and can only enter the first floor. Choose only one item. The old man said coldly as he inspected Victor and the girls, then he flicked his broom and the door opened slightly. What are you waiting for? The clock is already ticking. The old man yelled, making Victor hurry inside while cursing silently. Zoe and Rita followed. Victor only whispered a few words in Rita's ears as they passed the door. Meet me at the innermost corner, he said as he hurried alone after secretly spanking her butt. This place was huge. Many shelves were stacked with treasures of all things from artifacts, materials, and skill books. But Victor didn't care about those. On this floor, most of the things were of the F to C ranks with some B rank damaged goods. For other beginners and normal players, these things were treasures, but for him, they were garbage. He was thinking about the Elder's Omnivision skill. The Elder was definitely monitoring them. His new plan was cancelled, he will have to revert to his original distraction plan it seemed. He turned around and quickly headed to where Rita was waiting for him. It's time for some romance. Ellipsis. Rita was looking at a strange stone. Her grandfather wanted this thing, but he never told her what it was for. The Yang stone is not something for little girls. Did your father or grandfather task you with getting this thing? Victor's voice surprised her. Yes, she answered without thinking. How did he know? Well, it has some uses for a grumpy old man. This thing is usually used to help troubled men in bed, he said casually, making her blush. Pervert, she thought. She didn't believe him. How can a grand man like her grandfather think about those dirty things? She thought but was interrupted when Victor suddenly pushed her to a nearby wall and kissed her mouth hard. She didn't even resist as her mind froze. What? Why? This kiss lasted for eternity. Or that was what she felt. I really thought about you all night yesterday after our phone call. He whispered in her ear after a minute. She didn't even realize that his lips were separated from hers. Was that her first kiss? You are very pretty, he said as he kissed her again. Make her blush. She didn't know why she didn't push him away. This young lady has never been treated this roughly before. It must be the system, she told herself. Don't do it again. I have a fiancé, she said in a soft voice. What? Then why did you offer yourself to me as a maid? Are you a pervert? He asked in surprise. No, I told you before, I fell in love with you. I don't care about that man anymore. She lied. She can't tell him about the system. Then it doesn't matter. The moment you chose to submit to me, you became mine, not his. Victor said as he looked at her sternly, making her blush more. What does he mean I am his? This young lady would never submit that easily. She said to herself. Let's go, he said as he took her hand. She didn't want to leave. Don't forget where we are, he reminded her, making her quickly look around. Ah, she forgot. We are out of time, don't forget the stone for your grandfather. He added, making her snap out of her trance and quickly take the stone as she followed him outside with a blush. What was she thinking? Has it already been 30 minutes? Why didn't she feel the time passing? Was she really that entranced with that kiss? It was amazing. She silently looked at Victor who was dragging her not knowing what to think. She knew quite well that she was a hostage by the system that forced her to be this man's maid. She had two choices, death or submission. And she didn't want to die. But she didn't want to be a toy to a pervert. What to do? But does she like Victor anyway? She asked herself. No, definitely not, maybe a little. He was very handsome after all. Chapter 117, A Beginning. When Victor and Rita returned to the hall, Zoe was there too. She seemed pretty happy with what she got. The Grand Elder was standing majestically while stuffing his nose with a tissue. He seemed to have suffered a nosebleed. Pervert, he kept giving Rita and Victor a nasty glare as they left the vault. Ahm, put the things you chose in front of me, he ordered after a cough. Zoe rushed first and put down the rusty sword she got. The Elder frowned but said nothing. This thing was only kept here because it was appraised as an F-rank treasure. He was more than glad to get rid of it. While Victor was flabbergasted. How the hell did I miss such a treasure? Aspharal Sword F+ SSS. A weapon that grows with the wielder. Adds 10% to the player's strength. Upgradable. This thing might appear weak now, but after a few upgrades, it would become crazy strong. Are you sure? You can't change your choice after leaving her? The elder asked her. The patriarch told him to look after her after all. Yes, I trust my heart. She said stubbornly. Suit yourself, he said. He returned the sword to her after registering it in his ledger. Next, he said coldly. Rita quickly put the yang stone she got on the table. Oh, a yang stone. Is this for your boyfriend? Is he having a hard time satisfying you? The elder asked as he inspected her, then gave Victor a knowing look. With some jealousy in it. It is for my grandfather. She answered with a heavy blush. Why would the elder think that Victor was her boyfriend? Did he see the kiss? Oh, okay then, whatever you say. It's none of my business anyway. The elder said as he gave the stone back to her, making her want to cry out of shame. Bastard grandfather. Victor didn't wait for the elder to call for him as he placed the treasure he got carefully on the table. As if he was placing a child. Why would you choose this between all the things in there? The elder asked him as he looked at it with a strange look. It was a scroll painting of a naked woman. The smiling lady. The man looking at it would be fascinated for a blink of an eye. This thing was pretty much useless. And only perverts would want it. And it was placed there on the wall as a joke, not for the keeping. Some people said that it was here for ages. Yes, I felt my heartbeat when I looked at it, he said, making the elder want to spit at him. What's wrong with those three? Don't they know how to select normal treasures? Are the three of them really elite heirs? When did the family's standards for selecting elites degrade so much? Whatever, the elder said as he threw the scroll at Victor after registering it. You can leave, he sighed as he said, nearly throwing them away. He had more important things to attend to. Ellipsis. When they left the building, Rita turned around and looked at Victor stubbornly. We will never meet again, probably. As I may have to get married. So forget whatever happened inside. She told him, take care, she said as she turned to leave. Now that she was no longer required to be a virgin, her grandfather would probably ship her off to Levi. Take this, Victor replied, as he grabbed her hand and pulled her back, then put a ring on her finger, making not only her but also Zoe blush. What is he doing? A confession. He only met her yesterday. Was what that idiot Luke said about him being a pervert true? Don't get me wrong, this is just a normal gift. He said casually, we will meet again anyway, don't forget your status. I will go get you later. He rebuked as he spelled, maid, with his lips, then put his arm around Zoe's neck and dragged her home as he waved goodbye with his other hand, trying to act as cool as possible. Rita just stood there frozen. She slowly raised her hand and looked at the ancient-looking ring with shock. What was going on here? Was he proposing? Was this the reward promised by the system? Proposing. Get yourself together B*TCH and know your place. He is your master. Ding. He seems to really care about you. Look inside the ring. Inside. What? This thing was a storage ring and not a small one. Hell, this one was bigger than her grandfather's. Did he really give it to her? She sighed as she looked at it, not knowing what to think. Was he really in love with her? She didn't know, but this gift was too precious to give to someone at random. Maybe he is not that bad after all. Look inside it. The system repeated, making her look inside to find a stack of talismans. What are those for? Replacement talisman A. Mark it with your blood, then give this to another girl and let her serve Levi in your place. The system made Rita realize why Victor gave her those. He really cared about her. Would he really come for her? Ellipsis. Victor and Zoe didn't return to the mansion but headed directly to the helipad, where Theodore, Iris, and Falcon were waiting for them. They were going to head back to the residential island. As their work was over, Iris and Theodore's relationship seemed to have grown better, as she was treating him more like a father now. Where did he take her? When they reached the residential island, it was slightly after noon. Victor left them saying that he should return to his own mansion as many girls were waiting for him there. Theodore sighed, then reminded him that he was returning to Vane tomorrow in the afternoon and that Victor should go with him. While Zoe gave him a strange look. He was acting like a pervert, but she had a feeling that he was not. Strange. Victor nodded, then left them and walked home. The sun was hot, but he felt nothing. He was too excited to return home and sort through his new toys. There were no accidents on the way. No foolish women this time. When he reached his mansion, he was welcomed by Lily, who jumped onto him and hugged him, then initiated a kiss. making him freeze a little in shock. This girl is getting bolder, especially after he confessed to her. He didn't mind. Let's go inside. I didn't forget your punishment for telling mother about my bad habits, he told her as he walked inside while holding her waist. Arya was talking to the girls in the living room while watching TV. She seemed much better. So did the girls, they had some color on their faces. They didn't look bad, should probably test them as pillows. He thought. Ah, you are here. How was your trip? Did you eat up any new girls? She asked sarcastically, as the assassin girls stood up and saluted respectfully. They couldn't afford to be disrespectful like Arya. Yes, I got a new one, stolen goods. She is a little hard to swallow, but with some processing, she will get better. He said, giving Lily, who was beside him, the urge to step on his foot. Pervert young master. Why did he have the smell of more than one girl? 2, no 3. Wasn't he only with Iris and Zoe? Who was the third one? Bad young master. Have you eaten yet? He asked them, ignoring the sulking girl by his side. Not yet, been waiting for you, Arya answered, making him look around. Where is Kai? He asked. I am here, young master. Kai materialized out of nowhere. Oh, you are still alive. Anyway, we will head to Vane City tomorrow at noon. So prepare some ids for the girls. Victor said, and I have something to do at the study. For now, you prepare some lunch with the girls, we will eat together later. He said as he dragged Lily to the study and then firmly closed the door. The study here was mostly empty, containing only a desk and a couple of leather couches. He really needs to furnish this place. Is there anything wrong, young master? Lily asked him. He had a weird smile on his face. First things first, how was your mission? He asked, as the young master predicted. There was a bug in your mother's bedroom. I left it alone as you told me, but I told her about it. Lara's room was clear, she said. Good, he said with a sigh, and about John and Luke. I couldn't enter their room because Adele kept an eye on me. It is as if she could smell my intentions. Lily said, it's okay, I didn't expect you to succeed anyway. He said, but I did succeed. She said, what, how? He asked. That idiot Rex brought them new weighted training swords. So I applied it to the handle. She said, young master, wouldn't applying an aphrodisiac to them dangerous? We can get discovered, she added worriedly. It is a diluted solution. Its effect would be gradual and help them awaken their bloodline as they abstain themselves. He said, I thought you wanted to harm them. She asked, awakening our family's bloodline on a teenager is more efficient than 1,000 aphrodisiacs. He said with a smile. Didn't you notice how all the adults in the family have many wives? It is because of the bloodline. He said with a smile. Ah, but what if they manage to keep their virginity until the ceremony? She asked. That would be unfortunate, but do you think abstaining for a full year while on an aphrodisiac is easy? At the very least they would not be able to train and would have to suffer a little. That would get them off Lara's back at the very least. As for the ceremony, I might have other plans. He said with a smirk. Ah, okay, she said but sounded unconvinced. Now to the other matter. We are rich now, dear Lily, he said as couldn't contain his laughter any longer and began to laugh loudly. What, wasn't the young master already rich? She asked him as she cocked her head. Not this rich, he said as he waved his hand and the table in front of him was filled with gems and skill books. Did you steal the vault? She yelled, then quickly put her hand on her mouth and looked around. Yup, he said proudly, making her speechless, but, she wanted to say. Don't worry, there is a hidden room inside the vault, that's where I got those. No one knows about it, he said, making her a little relieved and a little scared. Her young master was really terrific. Today when Victor kissed Rita, he activated his disguise as he knocked her off. Then quickly used his shadow shifter ring to transport himself, not up to where the better things were placed, but down to the hidden vault. This was where the family kept the really precious stuff. And only the patriarch and the great elder had the key. It was dark, but it perfectly suited Victor as he avoided the detection formations using the ring and a bunch of talismans. Victor was careful not to let the elder notice anything. He even went out of his way to disguise a dirty show with Rita, which the elder has definitely watched with great interest. One does not become a great wizard without being a little perverted. After a few moments, he reached the place where the treasures were. First, he headed where the nether stones were placed and took a big one. He can't take too much, just what he needs. The family only had 30 or so that they collected from dungeons through the ages. He walked around collecting one or two of every material he liked. Some of those he needed for his various plans. Some of them were blood vials that he believed Alpha would be interested in. After that, he went to the skills section where only a handful was placed. All of those were rare ARS ranked. The Dragon Fist, S. Fire Breath, S. Evil Sword Art, A. Winter Call, A. Black Steps, A. Frozen Tears Part 3, S. He didn't care about those, as they were one-time use items, and the family would suspect him if someone from his subordinates used them after they went missing. What he was looking for was something else. Something is hidden behind the skill book's shelf. Behind the wall itself. He quickly shifted into the shadows again to reach inside the hidden chamber on the back. This place was hidden using a very sophisticated formation that even the family had no idea existed. It was dim, but Victor could make out a skeleton of a man who was sitting on a jade slab and seemed to have been reading a book. The family's ancestors. Nicholas von Weiss. This was his secret retreat. He must have died here in retreat and no one knew. In his past life, Victor only found this place thanks to the destroyed formations. It was buried under tons of rubble. Victor bowed respectfully, then stored the bones, the slab, and the book in his storage ring. Those bones were the same ones he used to extend his life in his past life. But now, he had other uses for them. They were not normal bones, but have some strange dragon properties to them which led Victor to believe that the legend of the ancestor finding the orb was a lie. This man was definitely not from this world. Too bad the blood was all dried up. The book was a bodybuilding skill that he couldn't practice in his past life because he lacked a suitable bloodline. Maybe he should make a copy and then trade it with Grandma for some benefits. But he must make sure that the family was clean before revealing it. As for the ring, it was full of weapons, artifacts, skill books, and gems. Those were mostly B to A, and some S ranked. With this, he can equip his army. The signs of the reckoning would begin soon. And he must be ready to steal the chances as they arise, so he needs a well-equipped team. After getting everything and photographing the formation, he went back and woke Rita with another kiss, making her think that she was stunned by his technique. As for the scroll of the naked woman, this thing contained a secret. He didn't expect to find it in his family's vault. In his previous life, he heard of it in the news. It was probably stolen when the family was ransacked. Take this, Victor said, taking the shocked Lily's hand and putting a silvery ring in it, making her blush. The Protector's Storage Ring S. Effect. Energy Shield A. This is for your own protection, and it would make things easier. He said, I will get you a better wedding ring when I find one. He whispered, making her nod in embarrassment. After that, he began to sort through the treasures. Sadly, the artifacts were mostly offensive. Not much defensive, support, and intrigue stuff. As for the skill books, those were the really good things. Look through those and choose some suitable ones. He said, don't we need to clear a dungeon for them to activate? Why the hurry? She asked as she began to look around. Yes, there will be a chance soon. Father has invited me to a raid. It would be next month, he said, making her nod as she skimmed through the skill books. Some of them really caught her eyes. I want this one, she said. Major lie detection, A. That's fine, he said with a smirk. She wanted to use it on him. But sadly for her, those types of skills are authority-based and didn't work on him at all. What about this? She asked. Voice changer, B. I think it would be useful. She said. Yes, probably. He thought they needed to develop strategies for using those. I will take this one. He said, taking a skill that he had in his past life. Eidetic memory, A. With that, Victor and Lily began to sort through the skills, especially the weapons proficiency ones, choosing not only for them but also for Arya, Alex, Margaret, and the twins. As for Alpha, she was already a bucket of skills, so he didn't want to waste any on her. After some time there was a knock on the door. Come on in, Victor said as he hid the stuff. They were already finished here. Young master, you should see this. They are airing it live on the TV, Kai, who opened the door, said with a pale face. Victor quickly went to the living room where the girls were frozen, their eyes glued to the 80-inch TV hanging on the wall. It showed a terrified anchor who was pointing somewhere to a faraway street, where a giant mantis about the height of a 2-story building was fighting a kid who held a spear. He had a mask on, but Victor recognized him. Sebastian. The kid kept slashing at the mantis while throwing fireballs at it. They seemed somewhat effective, but the destruction of the city buildings around them was great. Wait, this is the Silver Lightning City, the one near the Thunder Sect. He recognized it from the high pointy skyscraper in the background. What the hell is going on in there? Victor didn't know, but the appearance of monsters was the first sign that the world fabric was getting weaker. This was the first sign of the reckoning getting near. Chapter 118, A Mess. The blood trickled from Sebastian's forehead as he retreated behind the fallen building, avoiding another deadly stick from the mantis's raptorial arms. Damn it, how did he end like this? Yesterday morning he sneaked out of this sect and headed to the Thunder sect with his big apprentice sister, intending to get revenge on that bastard Alex. He couldn't forget what he did to him. But who knew that the entire sect was closed by some kind of a formation that forbade entry? He couldn't even see what was going on inside. There was not even one guard outside. He didn't understand what was going on. Did that bastard see him coming? No, impossible. Something fishy was happening here. After waiting for 3 days, no one came in or out. So Sebastian and his sister decided to enter and have a look. They used a talisman that was given to them by their master to break a hole in the formation wall. Just a small hole, but who knew that the next moment the entire formation broke like shattered glass. And all hell broke loose. Inside, he could see the ruins of what appeared to be a major sect with creatures looking like mantises feasting on a mountain of corpses. At that moment Sebastian realized what he had done. Dungeon creation failed. Mantis dungeon was broken. Warning. Emergency mission to all players in the peripheral. Kill the mantises 0651st. Kill the mantis king. Time 9 days 23 hours 59 minutes 57 seconds. Failure punishment. Death. What? A dungeon can break out. Did he do it? Why did a dungeon break out here of all places? He didn't know, but now he was bound by his mission. After hesitating for a moment he sent a message to his master. Then quickly began to fight the mantises with his sister using the Arachne Slayer's spear. This thing was super effective against insects. That day when he regained his consciousness he was already outside of the dungeon. Thankfully he marked the spear with his blood, so the system threw it beside him when exiting the dungeon. Little Sebi, target the heads, and watch out for the arms, she warned him. His big apprentice sister, despite being younger than him, always knew better. They hoped help would come soon. If those things reached civilization it would be their responsibility. Sadly for them, after fighting for one night, the mantises seemed to have realized that they were not his opponents, so a few of them decided to leave the area. I will stay here, you follow them, his sister told him sternly as she ripped off the head of another mantis with her hands. So he quickly followed the escaping monsters. He discovered that they were following the commands of a giant mantis that seemed to have some camouflage skill. This was the king, it was leading them. So after finishing the small fries off, he began to attack it. This thing was a boss-leveled character. Thankfully it couldn't fly, so the fight was somewhat possible. The bad news is that it reached Silver Lightning City, and began to fight Sebastian using the buildings as covers, and civilians as tonics. It kept regenerating as it attacked and devoured some poor souls. Many police officers tried to engage it but ended up losing their lives. Bullets were ineffective against its metallic exoskeleton. This is going to be a mess. He cursed. No degree of media blackout can cover it. The Players' Council would surely punish whoever was responsible. So he should finish this mission quickly and escape. At this moment the Mantis King struck him again from behind. So Sebastian used the spear to defend. But that thing spat a ball of a slimy green substance at him. Sebastian stepped to the side, making the slime hit a building behind him, where it began to melt the concrete and release brown fumes. Damn it, this thing was strong. But there's hope. Sebastian could see that his spear was leaving visible damage. So he pressed on. The fight lasted another hour, in which more buildings were flattened to the ground until the King Mantis was slain at last after its stamina ran out. All the people seemed to have fled so it had no more materials to regenerate. Sebastian quickly used his storage ring to take the corpse, then escaped to meet with his big sister. Hopefully, she was fine. They must finish the rest of those guys before the time runs out. Ellipsis. Reporting from Silver Lightning City. As you can see, there was extensive damage to the buildings. As for the casualties, about 150 were reported dead, while 900 were injured. We still do not have the full image here. Do we know what that thing was? No data yet, but a spokesperson of the government has stated that it might have something to do with the bio lab in the mountains. They said that they would send an investigation team. And the kid who was fighting it? We don't know, as the footage showed he was wearing a mask. Why is he fighting it? Maybe he has some insect fetish, we are not clear yet. He was shooting fireballs from his hands. Yes, we believe that it has to be some kind of a new biothermal weapon. Are you shitting me? Do you think I am blind? This was definitely a fireball like the one in video games. What thermal weapons nonsense. My mother was killed yesterday, and you still order us to hide the trail. PPP. We are experiencing some technical error, our broadcast will return shortly. Theodore frowned as he turned off the TV on the plane. The Thunder sect would be investigated after this. He told Victor, who was sitting opposed to him. I will tell Alex to corporate, Victor responded. No need, only George and I knew about him, so just let him stay low for now. But I expect you to interrogate him about this, and I want you to report everything to me. He said. Understood, Victor replied with a sigh. Theodore signed too, as he looked at Victor, then at Iris and Arya, who was sitting nervously in the back. What happens now? Lily, who was sitting with Victor in the same seat, asked with concern. It's a mess. The council has ordered a blackout, but no one knows how to implement it. Too many people died, and there is a lot of footage of those things. We don't even know what happened. This is the first time those things have been spotted outside a dungeon. Theodore said. I guess they would fabricate some crazy story that no one would believe at first, then keep bombarding the media with experts one after another until it is old news, Victor said. Exactly, but we have more trouble. Apparently there were some people who managed to kill a small mantis. One of them managed to awaken and began to tell his friends about the system. This is far from over. Theodore said, then frowned and began to contemplate. Victor knew exactly what his father was thinking about. Can this be used as an awakening method? What if a similar incident happened later again? Victor said. He clearly knew that this was the beginning. But he felt strange. Where did the mantis come from? This incident did not happen in his past life. In fact, it was a similar incident that would happen about 2 months later when goblins would attack a tourist spot. It was the case of a dungeon that remained undiscovered for years bursting open. Let's hope nothing like that happens, Theodore said, not realizing that Victor was secretly informing him about what was going to happen in the future. Ellipsis. All dead? An old man asked a masked woman with a curvy body. Yes, little Sebi went chasing after the king, he should have killed it by now. She said. Good, now you answer me, why did you defy my command and help Sebastian come here? Didn't I warn you not to? He asked sternly. You saw how devastated he was. He refused to tell me what that young master, Alex, did to him, but I was sure it was really nasty, as he would wake up in the middle of the night screaming and cursing. So I had to do something, she said while keeping her head down. He should be a man and get over it, the old man said, just as a system notification appears in front of his eyes. Mission success. The enemy has been eliminated. All participants would gain an express depending on their contribution. Level up. Authority +1. STR +3. Int +1. AGI +2. New skill. Mantis Fist. B. Oh, this is the first time I heard of a level up outside of a dungeon. The master said with a frown as he checked his new status. Really? The girl also said in surprise. Did your family have any information about this? He asked her. Not a lot, something like this happened 300 years ago. But not much information was available then due to the limited number of players. She said with a frown. Well, whatever this is, things will change. Maybe it's time for us to get ready. If the prophecy was correct, the day the world changes are nearing, he said before looking at his disciples searching the grounds and collecting the corpses. Hurry up, we will have to leave in 1 hour. He yelled. Those guys in the council should be on their way, and he didn't want to meet them. Chapter 119, An Appointment. Victor looked at his worried father and shook his head. Things were going to get messed up sooner or later, but as a major family, they didn't need to worry, on the contrary, they would be the ones who benefited the most. I heard you hit Morris. Theodore suddenly asked him. Who was Morris? Victor turned his head and asked with a frown, he really didn't remember. Idiot, you must know the names of the people you hit. It is your cousin, the one that was planning on taking Arya. Theodore scolded. That one, yes, he wanted to take advantage of the situation and grab her, so I followed the rules and taught him a lesson. Would there be any problem? Victor asked. No, serve him right for being a pervert, how dare he touch Arya after knowing that she was under my protection. However, you have to be careful, although his father, the head of the punishment hall, follows the rules to the letter. He might try to find faults with you in the future. So make sure not to fall into his hands. Theodore warned. Hearing that, Victor nodded. He didn't care about that idiot. Now that he had ransacked the hidden vault, he had enough capital to build his own power. A power that would rival the Von Weiss family. Now it's time for a nap, he thought as he yawned, then put his head on Lily's shoulder and closed his eyes. He didn't get much sleep last night as he had to spend the night explaining to the assassin girls what it meant to be players. They were pretty shocked, especially when Lily showed them her skills. Oh, he learned their names by the way. They were Isla, Sky, Nora, Ivy, Gwen, Cora, and Eve. And to their dismay, Victor didn't even try to memorize their names and kept calling them Assassin Girl 1 or Assassin Girl 2. After that, he went to sleep with Arya again despite Lily's protests. This girl needed to be punished for being a snitch after all, and he didn't want to spank her in front of her sister. So just resorted to sleeping with someone else to make her jealous. And poor Arya was his only choice, as he didn't want to touch the assassin girls yet. He wanted them to make the decision to surrender to him on their own accord and then offer themselves to be eaten after that. His choice was a mistake. A big mistake, that he had to pay a heavy price for. Arya was not suitable to be a sleeping pillow, not at all. He should have known better. She moves too much. Yesterday she kicked him in the balls while sleeping. Next time he would have to tie her up. Anyway, after a sleepless night, in the morning, he had a quick breakfast and then hurried to say goodbye to his mother and sister before leaving with his father and Iris. His mother whispered some words in Lily's ear before they left, while his stepmothers and half-brothers didn't even say a word to him. They just respectfully saluted his father. Zoe and Falcon seemed to have been allocated another mansion on the island. They were staying there until Zoe got assigned a mission by the family. On the return trip, Victor took Arya with Lily and her sisters with him. As for Kai, he decided to leave him in the island's mansion. He could do all his missions remotely anyway, and the mansion needs renovations. Victor didn't want him anywhere near the girls in Vane City. Now, he just wanted to get some sleep, while thinking about his next plans. For the next period of time, he should consolidate his power and wait for the dungeon raid with his father. Oh, and he had to attend the academy. There was more than one person he wished to kill there. He should probably castrate them first. As for Linda's trouble, it had to wait until after that. With those happy thoughts, Victor drowned in his dreams. Lily smiled as she felt her young master's head on her shoulder. Serves you right for abandoning me for Arya, she thought as she smiled while remembering his scream last night. He had to put a bag of ice on his crotch until the morning. Maybe this was retribution for all the nut-cracking he did. Did Victor give you that ring? Theodore asked her suddenly while looking at her hand. Ah, yes, she said as she looked fondly at the silvery storage ring on her finger. Theodore nodded and said nothing. He clearly saw that this ring was an artifact. Victor was getting more and more mysterious lately, not bad at all. Hopefully, his other sons would surprise him too. Ellipsis. When the plane reached Vane City, Victor quickly said goodbye to his father, Iris, and George, then took Lily, Arya, and the assassin's girls to the company's limousine which was waiting for them at the runway. Leo had learned his lesson. I hope you had a nice trip, young master. Leo, who opened the door, greeted respectfully with a smile, then began to drool as he saw the girls, one after another enter the car until it was completely full. What are you doing? Go do your job. Arya, who regained her casual boss's secretary's bravado, scolded him as she entered the car and closed the door. Leo cursed silently as he returned to the driver's seat and started the car. Why did this bossy girl return? He must find a chance to please the young master. Maybe he would let him have some time with those girls. Victor, who was surrounded by girls, didn't care about Leo or his thoughts. He just relaxed in his seat, feeling the girls who deliberately pushed themselves at him. Should I live with you from now on? Arya asked with some embarrassment while looking at her perverted brother who was fondly surrounded by girls. Lily was sitting on his lap. Ah, yes, Victor said absent-mindedly, your mission has not changed. You are my exclusive secretary. And you will be responsible for all my normal businesses and finances. And be sure to investigate the company when you return. I don't know if that idiot Susan messed anything up. He added casually as if no pretty girls were busy teasing him. It seems they made some bet with Lily to seduce their young master. And of course, Lily would win. Understood, Arya replied while sighing. Oh, and my mother's, Carla's funeral is tomorrow. I will be attending it with Iris. Do you want to come? She asked him. No, I will not go, I didn't like her. And that B*TCH would turn in her grave if I went there anyway. I have to go hunt for pretty girls. Victor replied, making Arya wish to kick him. Can't he say something nice about Carla? She was his stepmother anyway. And she was already dead. Young master, our car is being followed. One of the assassin girls who was hugging his arm suddenly said, what was her name again? Ah, yes, Nora, aka Assassin Girl 3. Victor looked at the rusty car following them with a frown, then used his appraisal skill on its 2 passengers. Jane Armstrong, STR 10, Int 19, Luck 19, Charm 17, Fate, B decreasing. John Smith, STR 16, Int 4, Luck 5, Charm 11, Fate, E decreasing. Victor didn't recognize them. Are they other assassins? Should he use his bazooka? He had one ready in his ring. That woman looks pretty though, it would be a waste. Ignore them for now, but keep an eye on them if they make any suspicious movements. He said casually. Young master, I think I know that woman's identity, Leo said from the front as he checked the car in the mirror. Oh, is there a pretty woman in the city whom you don't know? Victor asked sarcastically. No, maybe. Anyway, I believe that woman should be Jane Armstrong. A well-known investigative journalist, he said, making Victor frown more. Was there anyone by that name in his memory? No, she was probably not important enough in his past life. What does she want? He wondered as he gestured to Leo to park on the side of the road. Soon the car stopped, followed by the one behind it. A woman and a man stepped down from it. The woman quickly approached Victor's car and knocked on the rear tinted window. Victor gestured to Arya, who quickly opened the door. A pretty woman in her 30s, Jane, stood there shocked, wondering what was going on here. It seems this young master is more perverted than rumored. Can I help you? Victor casually asked as he tilted his head to look past Lily, who was nested in his lap. You are young Master Victor White, I presume? She inquired, just to be sure. Yup, the one and only, he said proudly. Can we find a place to talk in private? She asked him while looking at the girls. They didn't seem to be some kind of cheap girls. Although they looked docile, her journalist instinct told her that they were dangerous. Especially that veiled girl. Not now. I am busy, as you see. What is this about? If you want to be a model in my company, I can give you some time tonight though. He asked her as he checked her body. Not bad. I am Jane Armstrong. I work at the Vane City Times. I want to inquire about your brother Nick and cousin Titus. She said sternly, making Victor realize that this one was probably investigating his relative's shady deals. And that explains why he never heard of her before. She must have ended up in the belly of some fish. He can use her. Oh, too bad. You should really work as a model. But, I will talk to you, maybe. Arya, is my schedule clear the day after tomorrow? He casually asked, making Arya silently curse at him. What schedule? Do you do anything other than messing around with girls? She thought, but she had to act her role, so she took out her phone and feigned tapping on it. Yes, there is some time between your urologist and dermatologist appointments. She cheekily said, making Victor want to smack her. He was not short of bad rumors. Ah, okay then, set an appointment for Miss Armstrong at the company headquarters in the afternoon. About 3 p.m., he said casually. Jane frowned a little then nodded. It was not unexpected that he would do the interview on his own turf. But she will not back down. She didn't get her position by being a coward. And this case is really important for her. I will be there, she said as she gestured to her assistant and returned to her car as Lily closed the door. Young master, why would you need to see a urologist? Leo asked timidly as he started the car. F***CKU, Victor replied as he kicked Leo's seat from the back. Making the girls chuckle. All of them, including Leo, had realized that this was Arya's revenge on him for insulting her mother. Ellipsis. Tom looked around, making sure that no one was following him before entering a back alley where a shady store existed. We are closed, a menacing bald man at the door said. I have extra goods, Tom said. The man nodded and opened the door, letting Tom enter. Oh, Tom, when was the last time I saw you? 3 months ago. Do you have something for me? The shopkeeper, who wore a blue shirt and black shorts, asked casually as he put down his cigarette and puffed some smoke. Yes, some good things, Tom said as he took out a vase wrapped in a cloth from his backpack. This was the treasure he got from the spider's dungeon. Oh, an illusion vase. It is E rank, it seems. The man said as he appraised the vase using a golden magnifying glass. It was an artifact too. Yes, how much would you offer me? Tom asked. 15,000 coins. The man said. Too little. I heard there is an auction. Tom replied, flashing his confident smile. Do you want this to be auctioned there? That's fine, but I will take an introduction fee. he said. Tom nodded. It will happen the day after tomorrow at midnight. In the basement of the Solaris Hotel. The man said as he took the vase and offered Tom a bronze ticket. This is an entrance ticket, don't lose it. And be there on time. The man said sternly as he packed the vase inside a metal box. Oh, and remember, tell no one, he added. Tom nodded, then left the store not realizing that Victor was watching everything through his eyes. Chapter 120, 100 Beauties. Alpha sighed as she watched the girl clean the mansion. This place was a remote abandoned village in the mountains. It used to be a base for her family before they fell. Now she is going to build a hidden organization here. But those girls need a lot of work. And she must find others. Too bad this place was abandoned 20 years ago, so it had no modern computers. She needed to get new devices and equipment. Too much work. Mistress, we cleaned everything here. The young girl, Ruby, bowed and said respectfully as she shivered a little. This mistress was pure evil. Good, from now on you guys will live here, no one should be able to find you. Alpha said as she stood up, let's go give your sisters a lecture. She said while wondering if she should ask Victor to find her some experts to train the girls. Ellipsis. It was already nighttime. When Victor reached the mansion, he was greeted by everyone in the hallway, including the grumpy Margaret who kept making threatening gestures at Alex, who seemed a little nervous. Victor, knowing what this was about, couldn't help but chuckle. Margaret at this time was about 99% sure that Alex was a girl. She even texted Victor asking for confirmation. Victor only replied with a lazy, I don't want to know, confirming her conclusion. Lily, go with Hilda and arrange a place for Arya and the girls, Victor said. Shall I take them to the separate building? She asked. No, they will live with others at the servants' dormitory. While Arya will stay with me at the main building. He said, winking at Arya, making her blush a little. Hilda nodded, then gestured to Lily and the girls to follow her. Another 7 girls. Would the young master bring others later? He is more perverted than his father. She thought. Do you want to have dinner, young master? Mana asked. No, I ate on the plane, just prepare a meal for yourselves, Victor said. Knowing that the girls must have not eaten anything waiting for him. Young master, big sister Alpha has not returned yet, do you know anything? Beta asked suddenly after some hesitation. Don't worry, her mission is a little bit troublesome, but she should be fine. If my guess is correct, she should return in a couple of days. Victor replied casually, making Beta nod, but she was still unconvinced. Alex, follow me, oh, and Margaret too, he said as he headed toward the study, which was now filled with a collection of antique books. Hilda works fast. Is there anything wrong, young master? After entering the study, Alex asked nervously, while looking at Margaret. Did she tell him? Did you watch the news lately? Victor asked, as he sat down and invited Alex and Margaret to be seated on the opposing couch. No, we were busy getting rid of the Lotus gang. Aunt Hilda should have already told you. Alex replied. Yes, those vermin got what they deserved. It's not about that, just watch, said Victor as he turned on the projector in the study and set it to a random news channel that was still playing the events at Silver Lightning City. Victor waited as Alex's expression turned from nervous to serious, then ash-white, as he watched the news. Margaret was surprised too. After a while, Victor turned off the projector and looked at Alex. Speak, he commanded. Alex swallowed, then after a deep breath she spoke. This was my fault, she said with a sigh while keeping her head down, not daring to look Victor in the eyes. How so? Explain, Victor asked, while Margaret, who got really scared seeing the corpses being excavated from the ruins in the news, looked at Alex. The Thunder Sect has a secret. We didn't have an awakening artifact, Alex said nervously, making Victor squint his eyes. Then open them wide. No, it can't be. It is a half-opened dungeon, isn't it? He asked Alex, who was surprised that Victor knew about this. She quickly nodded. The Thunder Sect was created when the Ancestor, a normal martial artist who was traveling and witnessed a bolt of grand lightning that hit a mountainside, created an upward traveling silver lightning that returned back into the sky. So the Ancestor quickly headed to the place where the lightning struck, and there he found a dungeon opening. Alex said. He went in bravely, and soon discovered something. The door disappeared and he was stuck inside where the screen indicated that he had become a player. So he began to travel inside and soon encountered a mantis monster. He could defeat it but was hurt badly, so he made a tactical retreat, and during this, he discovered another door leading outside, and to his surprise, it was the same door. She explained. After that, he hid the opening, then began to meet other players and learned about the hidden rules of the world. And discovered that he had something others coveted. A way to turn normal people into players. It seemed that the thunder that struck the mountain hit a weak point in the dungeon and that made it have a crack. So he created the thunder sect in front of it, Victor said. Alex nodded. Yes, Alex said, and Victor urged him to continue. The dungeon's gate was not stable, it was shrinking, so the ancestor found a formation master who created a locking formation that stopped the closing of the gate. But that made it so it could only be opened once every year when the elites and apprentices who were deemed loyal would be able to go inside it, where they would be thrown to random locations. Only 10% made it out, as they needed to find the door inside to leave and enjoy their new status. It was not easy, Alex said. Thought. Margaret was surprised. Does that mean you can get a lot of express for free? She asked. Yes and no, Alex replied. The dungeon was never cleared, so there were no rewards in it. But the elite apprentice could go inside and harvest the weak mantises, then participate in a raid outside to exchange their express. She said. And what does this have to do with you? Margaret asked. I was the young master of the Thunder Sect, and in addition to my father, the patriarch, we were the only ones who knew how to disable the locking formation. She said. The elders and the Thunder Sect must have tried to break in, didn't they? Victor said. Alex nodded. That is what seems to be the case. They must have used too much energy and broke the dungeon in the process. She said. I see. Victor said. With a sigh, we have to do something to hide you, as many powers would be searching for the remaining members of the Thunder Sect. He added. Will the young master help me? Alex asked in surprise. She expected that he would sell her or throw her out now that she had become a hot commodity. Yes, I will not give up on you. Victor said. So, we have two choices, he added as he began to inspect Alex, making her nervous. What? She asked. The first one is to lock you someplace dark and never let you see the daylight ever again, Victor said. What about the second choice? She asked nervously. You would have to act like a girl from now on. Victor said. Margaret, it would be your mission from now on to train him, I mean her, make her act like a lady. And if she doesn't do well, just tell me, I will castrate him to make her more feminine. Victor said, making Alex shocked. Don't worry, I will do it myself if needed, it would be quick, Victor said casually as Alex was left speechless. Margaret was having a hard time holding her laughter. The young master is so bad, but why was he teasing Alex like this? She didn't care. Understood, young master, leave it to me. She said, but can I be a little rough? She asked as she liked her cherry lips, making Alex feel a shiver in her spine. Yeah, do whatever is needed, I just want nobody to realize that Alex is a man, Victor said with a smirk that Alex didn't like at all. She wondered if she should tell him the truth. No, she promised her father. And she was worried that he would do that to her. Maybe. At this moment Hilda returned with Lily after settling Arya and the girls. Young master, I settled the girls. And I want to inform you that I installed new security cameras throughout the mansion. We are just missing a few guards. She said. Oh, I will go get a few pretty girls tomorrow to act as guards, Victor said, making Lily and Margaret shoot him a glare. Pervert young master, where did you put the magazines which were here? He asked. They are in the basement, Alpha told me that you wanted a change, so I did that. Does the young master need them? Hilda asked with uncertainty. Depends, who bought them originally? He asked. It was Baron, Hilda answered. Then it's okay, bag them for me, I will be using them the day after tomorrow. He said with a smile. For what? Margaret wanted to ask but chose not to. It's not polite to ask about her young master's perverted hobbies unless she was involved. That reminds me. Alex suddenly exclaimed. Young master, we got the things you wanted from the brothel, she said as she ran out of the study. Hilda sighed as she looked at Alex leaving. She really didn't like this young man. And she couldn't understand why the young master let him live in the main mansion. I will take my leave then, Hilda said respectfully and left. She doesn't want to see what dirty things they got from the brothel. Alex returned quickly with the loot bag and placed it on the table with a grin. Victor smiled and gestured to Lily to close the door, then sat at the desk, and began to take the items one by one under the girl's curious eyes. First, it was Baron's ID. After taking a look at it he stored it in his ring. This should be useful soon. After that, a black ink pen. Victor quickly used a series of moves to convert the normal-looking pen into a USB stick, which he threw at Lily. He got this thing in this past life too when he investigated Baron. It was a treasure trove of blackmailing materials. I want you to inspect everything here. It should contain some good data in addition to a ledger of Baron's black deals. He said as he took the hard drive out of the bag. This is, he asked. Ah, Alpha said you might need it. It contains the security recordings of the brothel. Margaret said. Good, Victor said as he also handed it to Lily. Inspecting this should be a good first mission for the girls. Next was a golden dagger. Alpha told me that Baron intended to use this on her before she killed him and he seemed hesitant, and she didn't recognize it, Margaret interjected. Victor frowned and appraised it. Golden sacrificial dagger SS 1/9. Sacrifice one life for a 1/10 chance of certain death attack. Shit, this thing was crazy strong, but it's too costly to activate. No wonder Baron didn't use it in the end, as he was the only one present there and would not sacrifice himself for just a 1/10 chance. Wait, it says 1/9, what if he collected all of those? Like that would ever happen. After that was the leather book. This was a low-grade appraisal artifact and Victor wanted to sell this, as he knew someone that would be very interested. The Book of Blood S. Reveal the bloodline talent of the target. Can reveal the hidden information in the bloodline requires having bigger authority than the blood originator to be able to decode the data. What? This thing is very interesting. He will use it later on Lily and himself. Victor resisted the urge to try it immediately and proceeded to inspect the last item. It is an ancient book that had the drawing of a woman with an erotic posture on it. Not only Victor but also Lily and Alex were surprised at the sight of it. It was in Baron's office. I thought you might like it, so I took it. Margaret cheekily said. Victor chuckled then just as he was about to put it away he activated his appraisal skill on it out of habit. The Book of Wished Knowledge X. The book takes the form and reveals the information that its master desire. Require X rank class to activate. Require authority depending on the subject. Cost. Order point per activation depends on the information. Cooldown time. Depends on the information's rank. Last activation target. The 100 most beautiful women in their favorite exotic poses. Shit, what is this? What the F***ck is this? This thing was an X-rank treasure. It was of the same rank as the time book he used to return to the past. X-rank treasures had powers that defied reality, but also very steep costs. Should he try it? But what would he need to ask about? Would it be costly? Save it for later. It seems the last owner of this thing was a big pervert. Victor thought as he flipped through the book to look at those 100 beauties. The women were really beautiful. About 80% to 95% on the Lily scale. Suddenly he stopped when he saw a girl there. This book must have been owned recently. No, wrong. Ellipsis dot. It was her. After a frown, he quickly closed the book, just as Margaret got curious about the way Victor changed his expressions rapidly, and sneaked around wanting to look at the girl he liked. She didn't browse through this earlier, as she was not interested. Victor stood up then turned around and grabbed Margaret who was behind him. Then, to everyone's surprise, kissed her hard on the mouth. This book was the most amazing gift anyone could give me. Thank you, Margaret, he said in a cool posture and a dashing smile, making Margaret blush heavily for the first time since she met Victor. She completely lost her confident composure, as she never expected this kiss. Lily and Alex were a little jealous, and could only think of one word. Pervert. Was a porn book really this great? Should I go to the market and buy a stack of porn magazines for this perverted young master? Maybe he prefers vintage collections.